Hey guys, happy Wednesday. This is part two of personal budget. So we're going to continue on with calculating personal budgets and things like that. So oftentimes budgets are categorized and the percentage of the total budget is calculated. So for example, if you're budgeting for food, for your rent, and for your college, you want to make sure that you're having the right amount, and sometimes they use as a percentage. So they'll say, oh, 30% of your budget is towards food. So that's what we're gonna work on. So it takes us back to the beginning of the school year where we talked about part whole is equivalent to a percentage out of 100 using that formula. And again, because percents are always out of 100. So depending on the information given in the problem is going to determine what you plug into the proportion and what you're solving for. Okay, so you might be solving for the part, you might be solving for the whole, or you might be solving for the percentage. Either way, all three can be found using this proportion. So we're going to work through a couple of examples. So the first example, Michael budgets $600 of the $2,000 he brings home for transportation expenses. So I already went ahead and set up my proportion. Now the 2,000 is his total or his whole. 600 is what he's budgeting for, so that's the part. And we're trying to figure out what percentage is of the $2,000 is 600. So again, remember, we want to work with what we know. So we want to go from the whole, which is $2,000, to the 100%. And how do we do that? So we're going to take 2,000 and we're going to divide it by 20. So if we do this to the bottom, we have to do the same thing to the top. So we're going to have to take 600 and divide it by 20, and we would get 30%. Now, where did I figure out how to or why to divide by 20? So what I did was I said, okay, well, I'm going from 2,000 to 100. So I know I'm going from big to small. So I know my operation is division. And then I just figured out what number I could divide 2,000 by to get 100. Okay, so that might take a guessing game, but eventually I got that 2,000 divided by 20 would give me 100. And if I did that to the bottom, then I would have to do that to the top, okay? And then I would get the 30%. All right, so example number 2. Tanisha earns $3,000 per month after taxes. She saves $720 per month. So this again wants us to calculate what percentage is $720 of the $3,000. So we set up our proportion the same way. It gives us our total monthly income, which is $3,000, and then it gives us the part, which is $720, and we are solving for the percent. So here we are going again from 3,000 to 100, and it's really similar to the last problem, but this is 3,000. So I'm going to take that 3,000 and divide it by 30 to get 100. And if I do this to the bottom, then I also need to do this to the top. So then I would take this 720 and divide it by 30, and I would get 24%. Okay, and again, just a guessing game. 3,000, I figured out, okay, well, I'm going from 3,000 to 100, so I know I'm dividing because I'm going from big to small, and then I just, try to guessing game, figured out what I could divide 3,000 by to get 100, and I came up with 30. Okay, so again, any point in this video, if I'm moving too fast, please feel free to pause or just rewind and rewatch it again. Okay, so the next example says Callie's dad is working with her to create a budget for her part-time job. He would like her to follow the percentages below. Complete the table to determine how much money Kelly will be able to give, save, and spend if she makes $800 per month. Okay, so it gives us the breakdown of what percentages she actually wants to use for each category, and it gives us her monthly income of $800 per month. Okay, and hopefully this $800 is telling us kind of like her total budget or the whole. So again, we're going to come back and we're going to use this calculator we're going to use the proportion part whole is equivalent to a percent over 100 to solve for each one of these. So this time we're given the percentage and we're given the whole, and we're trying to figure out the part. So here, okay, so we're trying to figure out the part. We're given the percentages, okay, and we're given the $800 per month, which is the whole. I'm going to put W, okay? So we're going to use this proportion again to figure out what dollar amount of her per monthly income would go to each category. So again, I'm just going to do one example. I'm going to do the giving example for you. Sorry, let me figure out how to get rid of this. Oops, sorry. Okay, so I'm going to work through the given, and then I'm going to pause the video, or hopefully you're going to pause the video and solve for saving and spending on your own, and then you can see if you got the same answers as me. So I'm going to set up my proportion. I'm given the whole, which is the $800. I'm looking for the part, which is how much out of that $800 is 16%. And I plugged in this 16% over 100. And so now, instead of going from 800 to 100, because I'm going to go from 100 to 800 because I have both the percentage and the 100, and I'm looking for the part. So to go from 100 to 800, I'm going to simply take 100 and times it by 8 to get 800. And if I do that to the bottom, then I'm going to need to do it to the top. So 16 times 8 would give me 120. Oh, sorry, this is a typo. This should have been 15%. I'm sorry, but we still get 120. So do me a favor, pause this video, solve for saving and spending on your own, and then come back and check your answers. Okay, so hopefully you paused the video. Hopefully you've solved for saving and spending. And if you solved for the saving, 25% of $800 would give you $200. And 60% of $800 would give you $480. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next example. Okay, the Donaldson family's budgets their monthly income of $3,200. Complete the table below to determine the percentage of the total family budget that category comprises. Okay. So here I have my titles mixed up. These should have been vice versa. Okay, so apologies for that. So I'm just going to draw a little arrow. So we're given the amount and they want us to calculate the percentage. So we're given that their budget is $3,200 for the whole month. So this is our whole. The amount, and you can go ahead and scratch through this if you want and write percentage, and you can write the amount over here, or I can rewrite this for you. Sorry guys, this is a lot harder than it looks. Okay, so the amount that we have here is the part. So I'm going to put P for part. We have our whole, and we're looking for the percent. So again, we're just going to use this part whole percentage proportion and plug in our information. I'm going to do one example for you, and then hopefully you'll pause the video and do the others on your own. So I'm going to work on the housing and utilities. The total amount, like we said, is $3,200. The part is $1,440, and we are looking for that as a percentage. So here I'm going to go from $3,200 to $100. So I'm going from big to small. So I know I'm going to divide. So I'm going to take this $3,200 and divide it by 32, okay? And if I do this to the bottom, then I'm also going to do this to the top. I'm going to take this $1,440 and divide it by 32, and I should get 45%. Okay, so I'm going to give you a minute, pause the video, go ahead and solve for food, transportation, entertainment, and savings, and check back to see if you got the correct answers. Okay, so hopefully you solved for these. We're going to run through these really quickly. For food, you should have gotten 10%. For transportation, you should have gotten 20%. For entertainment, you also got 10% because they are the same amount. And for savings, you should have gotten 15%. And to double check, again, you could always add up all of your percentages and make sure that they are equal to 100. Okay? All right, so this last example, it says use the circle graph of the Perez family budget. Their monthly net income is $6,000. Type in your answer. So this one, I am only going to work on A with you, and then I'm going to leave a discussion below for you to give me your answer for what you get for B. But I do want to talk about this circle graph. If you notice, we have some give us a percent and some give us a dollar amount. So this is kind of like same thing if you're given a fraction or a decimal or a percent, you kind of want to make them all the same. So you want to go ahead and solve for either the amount in percentages, or you want to solve for what the percentage is as a dollar amount before you want to go ahead and try to answer any of these questions. You kind of want to make them all the same. Okay, and I know that sounds like quite a bit of work, but I will allow you to use a calculator to make it easy for you. Okay, so we're going to work through example A, and then I will leave the discussion open for you to put your answer in for example B. So example A says, how much money does the Perez family spend on transportation each month? So again, I set up my proportion. I look at transportation and it gives me that 7%. So if I'm looking at this pie chart, I'm looking at this area right here, okay? And it gives me that transportation is equivalent to 7% of my budget. Now again, I want to know how much is that 7% in dollars, and that's what we're solving for. That's why we're setting up this proportion. So here, I have my proportion set up. I'm solving for the part. Okay, so I'm going to go from 100 to $6,000, and again, I'm going from a small amount to a big amount, so I know I'm going to multiply. And this one's pretty simple. I'm going to take 100 times 60 to get that 6,000. And if I do that to the bottom, then I for sure need to do that to the top. So I'm going to take that 7 and multiply it by 60 as well, and I'm going to get that that is equivalent to $45. Okay, so here I want to leave it to you to solve for example B and leave it in the discussion below. Hopefully you have a good day, and I am also going to put in the test or the quiz math assessment number 4 in the weekly. Again, you don't have to take that right away. I would suggest doing Tuesdays and Wednesdays lesson at least before you attempt to do the quiz. Okay, so hopefully you'll have a good rest of your Wednesday.